Hi everyone, thank you for joining this webinar. I'm Andrew Linley, Head of Products and Commercial at CloudClevr. As I'm sure you'll know, CloudClevr are a managed service provider offering solutions for unified communications, contact centers, IT support, IT security, business mobile, and internet connectivity. I'm joined today by George, who is the Payment Solutions Specialist at Rigby Capital. For those of you that do not know, Rigby Capital are technology finance specialists and more specifically our chosen partner for payment solutions for our customers. Today, we're here to talk to you about why buy when you can lease and the options available to businesses that can provide you with smarter ways to refresh your technology devices. We're going to look at the current market, the options available to you, as well as the benefits and also some real world examples.
Hello. Yeah, so my name is George from Rigby Capital. Just to start, just wanted to highlight some key pressures that businesses are facing currently in the world. So first of all, just want to look at a few of these. I'm not going to sort of go through all of them, but legacy and old technology is a big issue. Businesses are being forced for refreshes from their balance sheet rather than the sort of innovation approach. Sustainability demands, so more and more organizations need to sort of hit some ESG targets, whether they've got targets to get to net zero, and they're ever evolving. Cybersecurity, that's a big one. Obviously, people have seen in the news lately regarding cyber attacks. So that's cybersecurity is a big piece and a big threat to businesses. Cash flow, organizations having cash in the business to be able to invest in the core activities or any sort of IT or technology investments are getting pushed back from not having those budgets. And that's becoming more prominent with the likes of AI. So AI is ever evolving. You probably hear it a lot now. It's a common two letters that are being bandied around. So that's going to be a big investment and pressure that's going to be put on businesses in the future to keep up to date with that technology. And then a recent one, Windows 11. The Windows 11 upgrade has recently put a strain on organizations to force them into them refresh cycles. So we're here to look to see how we can support that and get you into a more strategic approach and refresh cycle. If you could pop to the next slide for me, Andrew. So this is just a little bit of an outlook at the current model that organizations are in when they are purchasing IT equipment with cash or CapEx model. So overall, for devices that maybe are 5, 6, 7 years old, the productivity can decrease. So slow loading times on a device. We all know if we've got an old device and you open it up in the morning and it takes 10 minutes to do an update, which can cause lost time. There's going to be difficulty facing those machines with using the new technology like AI, any video, and then large data sets that are involved in then assets, which can lead to frustrated employees. We see regularly employees list inadequate tech as one of their main frustrations at work. So as I said before, having that time in the morning where they're turning on and they're having to wait for it to work, or whether it's your battery dying on your phone when you've been out in the house for an hour. So that's an ever-evolving issue. Higher support costs and maintenance. So your IT teams are getting regular calls with tickets to support, patching up old devices, having to do regular updates, and also the external maintenance contracts that can be aligned to those machines that may fall out of maintenance. And then, as I mentioned on the previous slide, cybersecurity and security costs. Can your old devices cope with the security pressures and attacks that might be occurring? The endpoint security is often undermined with the older devices. And then lastly, with the traditional sort of device ownership model is e-waste. We see a lot of organizations who have got piles of old IT equipment, whether that's in drawers or stored away in cupboards or not returned back from exiting staff. What's happening with those devices? They're not getting recycled, they're not getting repurposed and back into the sort of circular economy. So next slide, please, Andrew. So we're just here to help deliver positive outcomes. So with Rigby Capital and CloudClevr, we can offer flexible solutions to help you get ahead of the curve in your technology. So that capital that you potentially previously have invested in large chunks and investment spikes into your tech. Let's redeploy that into core business activities and help you spread the cost of that investment rather than applying that capital in upfront. We can help you build in refresh cycles. So whether that's on a laptop on a 3-year refresh cycle, desktop on a 5-year, or mobile on a 2-year, we can build that and work with you to make sure you're up to date with the technology, up to date with the latest new AI features, whether that's going to be Windows 12, 13 down the line, and making sure you're not falling behind. And alongside that, employee productivity and happiness. There's no better feeling when you get a new device, you get a new laptop, it works fast, you're saving loads of time, you get a new phone, the battery, you don't have to charge it every 2 minutes. So that employee productivity and happiness can grow by being part of this sort of flexible solution. Stronger security and lower maintenance costs. That security and the newer device, it's going to be stronger. You're not needing to your IT staff's not going to be put under pressure with maintenance calls, requests to try and fix and patch up an old PC. That can help remove that cost by having this flexible solution. And then the devices at the end, rather than them going into a drawer, we can help support that by going into this refresh model. Your old devices can be given back, given a second life, repurposed, or recycled, improving your sustainability goal and ESG and net zero targets. Next slide, please. So how can CloudClevr and Rigby Capital help you? So we've got flexible solutions to suit different requirements. I'm just going to look at the first one here is the sort of flexible leasing, so more of your traditional leasing model, where we can help you spread the cost of your hardware into monthly, quarterly, or annual repayments, and we will work with you to structure that in a way that suits your organization and works with the utopian life cycle of a device. So whether that's a laptop over 3 years, we will work with you to see whether that you're best off having that on a monthly, quarterly, or if you wanted to look to extend that across and just avoid that investment spike when you are paying cash. And then a product with CloudClevr is that end-to-end tech as a service lifecycle management. So you can take a device, can be imaged, can be configured, delivered to your desk, all ready to go, and we can just charge that across one monthly payment or quarterly, and it means that device is then supported for the life cycle, returned to us at the end of the term, and then you get a brand new device. And linking back to the previous slides, that can only mean good things for your staff are happy. You've not got any big investment spikes into your cash flow is smoothed out. You've got predictable costs. The SPA or software payment agreement is for your sort of security or sort of if you've got a software that you know you're going to be wanting to commit to a period of time, we can help you try and unlock some valuable discounts from vendors. So by you committing to that software up front for 3 years, for example, we can then take that investment for you and then help you spread that across a term that actually suits your budget requirements, rather than typically with a multi-year deal with a vendor, they will want that payment up front. We can help you smooth that out and actually spread that across the cycle of that software. And then we've got value release. So this is for any of you, if you've bought some new laptops recently, we can actually look to buy them back off you to get into the model of the leasing or as a service. And what it means, you will then get that cash re-injected back into your organization, but then also have the benefit of being on the lease. So you know that that piece of kit is in that refresh cycle, and you know in 3, 4, 5 years time that you will not need to necessarily have that full investment spike, but you're into that cycle. And then IT asset disposal. So those old devices that are in your drawers, in your cupboards, is there any value in them? We can look to invest in them. We can purchase them off you and maybe inject some cash into your business. Obviously, it does depend on what the sort of condition of those assets are in, but that is something we can also assist with. And across the bottom, that's just a bit of a guide on how flexible we can be, whether it's a fixed a fixed line pattern, obviously we can invest in a residual value to lower your payments, or we can provide sort of stepped value mapped or deferred payments. I think a good example of a sort of value map or deferral, we were working with a customer recently. It was a holiday park. Their core business activity is between the months of April and September. So we worked with them to put a profile together where they are paying the majority of their payments in them summer months when their cash flow is good. And then in the winter, we reduce them payments down. So they're not having that different peaks and troughs in their cash flow. We can help them align with that. So we can be really flexible. We can work with you on any of these products, understand your business requirements, understand where you want to be from a refresh point, and also alongside the typical refresh cycles with that item of kit. We can support you on that. I'd like to pop to the next slide, Andrew.
So thank you, George. As George discussed what technology leasing is and the benefits of it, I'm now going to walk through specifically mobile phone leasing and the benefits of mobile phone leasing as one option. We work with our customers and thousands of customers and mobile connections and devices every day. There are 3 drivers for adoption of mobile leasing for businesses that we see. Most businesses replace mobile handsets every 2 to 3 years, often just in line with the airtime contracts that they have from us. Old mobiles rarely yield any value for a business. George touched on things kind of living in drawers, vanishing at the end of the contract, and who knows where they've gone. And that's investment from the business that's lost. And it's a risk for data protection and cybersecurity, because you don't know where these devices end up. You don't know who's got access to them, and they probably most certainly weren't securely wiped. Another issue can be devices that are actually kept in service. So as George mentioned, if a device is in service for a long time, you've got slow performance, degraded battery life, both lead to loss in time and productivity, and ultimately money. As George said, there's nothing worse than hopping out of the house and realizing that your mobile's flat or that your laptop's flat, which means you have to stop somewhere and charge, or you're then not effective and efficient in the meeting that you need to go to. Normally a customer meeting as well. Leasing tackles these pain points in a number of ways. When mobiles are being refreshed frequently, it makes sense to look at the residual value options that George was discussing. If a device is going to devalue and slow down, then why shell out the full CapEx RRP of that device on day one? Residual value lease means that there is no capital outlay, and it often means paying less than the RRP over the lease term, depending on the device, obviously, and what the trading value is at the end. But it's kind of a way to look at paying less for your device over the term that you would normally have the device. Then at the end of the lease term, simply hand the device back and start a new agreement for a new device, and you're back onto refresh kit, fixed payments, and you've got happy staff and everything's nice and secure. Following this method, you're benefiting from the device entering the circular economy, which assists with any ESG commitments that you likely have these days with business. The residual value, as I've just mentioned, you're not paying for the full RRP of the device over the term, hence in the long run you do save money on that. And then you're ticking the boxes for data protection. As the device doesn't vanish, doesn't disappear into a drawer. Who knows where mobiles seem to go in businesses at the end of 2 years, but they all disappear. No one gets any value, and where do they end up? We don't know, but the chances are they had some sensitive information on. And they'll all be securely wiped on return when you have that option. And then your staff have always got fast and efficient devices, great battery life, increasing their effectiveness, efficiency, and ultimately driving your bottom line, which is what we want to do. On this slide, we've actually got a testimonial from a customer where it's a real-world example. They benefited from freeing up capital, which allowed them to spend that capital on other investments that they had, and no CapEx requirement from the mobiles, and they went onto a lease. And then one of the big benefits for them as well is that they can add additional devices to the lease throughout the term as they hire more staff, as you would add a mobile connection. With the flexible connections and contracts that we've got, you can add devices at the same time and just build them into the lease and put the payments across. I'm going to hand back to George to cover kind of just a bit more in depth on the difference between CapEx and leasing and what that looks like over a few years.
Thanks, Andrew. Yeah, so this is a bit of a side-by-side of sort of CapEx versus lease. I sort of base this around a sort of mobile phone leading on from the previous. So with the CapEx option, obviously buy the device year one, that's great. employees are happy, productivity increases. But then as you get into sort of the third year, that equipment could break, there's performance issues, and say battery life dying. So you're forced into making that investment spike, and it's been sort of put back. And then what happens to those old devices? As we've said before, they could go missing, they go into drawers, they go into cupboards, and you've got no real track of where they are. And also, it depletes your cash resources. So you're having to reinvest in their mobiles, depleting cash, and what else could that cash be spent on? Then, or ultimately, it leads to frustrated employees. They're not having the best tools to be able to do their job effectively. So that can be demotivating for them. Whereas on a lease, again, lease productivity increases, happy employee, but you've got that free capital still within your organization to be able to reinvest into your core business activities, whether that could be investing in new staff, or investing in a project which is going to generate you a better return. You then return the old devices to us, lease the new equipment, happy staff. They've got a brand new iPhone, which are constantly being released in new updates. So they've got a brand new iPhone in the hand, and they know in sort of year 5, 6, they return that and they're going to get a new one, and they're in that cycle and they feel valued. And again, you invest that cash into your core business activities and really be able to progress and drive as a business rather than spending that value capital on a technology which is constantly evolving. Thanks, Andrew. So some real world sort of case studies for you. So these are deals that we've worked on. So the first one, this was a charity, and as you can imagine, they didn't really have a budget to spend on the new laptops. They needed to do something because their estate was aging. They didn't really have a refresh policy in place, which meant they could only buy these new laptops when they had budget available. So we worked with them to understand their requirements. They needed to do something, but they didn't have budget within that financial year. So we worked with them. We offered them a payment deferral. I think this was a 4-month payment deferral into their new financial year to then start the payments on a 3-year refresh cycle. So what that means for moving forward, they've now got predictable costs, and they are now know in 3 years' time they're going to be returning them devices and getting new devices without the drain on their cash, which obviously with charities they need to invest in their core activities to help people. The construction company. So this was an interesting one. So they had around sort of 200 iPhones in their fleet of devices. It was a legacy mobile estate, so they hadn't been refreshed in a long time, and they had no real hold on where those devices were, so no real circular economy activity was going on. So we worked with them again, planned in their refresh point. They wanted to aim for that sort of 24 month recycle. So we worked with them on that. They now know in 2 years' time they're going to get up-to-date technology. They're going to keep in the loop with where they need to be as a business to grow. And then finally, this was a law firm, so they were moving office. This was a big project for them, and with the industry they're in, they needed some high spec machines in the office. It was a large investment that they were needing to make. It was for 250 monitors, 250 laptops, and 100 iPhones across the estate. They had no real refresh plan in place, and with their new office they sort of took the aim to build that into their new model. Result of that, each deal was done on a different term. So the monitors, we built them into a 5-year deal because the monitors sort of lasted a little bit longer. Laptops on a 3, and their iPhones were also on that 3-year cycle. And what it means now, they've got that regular refresh in place. It's a reoccurring theme. Their assets at the end will enter the circular economy and then refresh. And then also alongside that, we incorporated the professional services and support costs involved in setting up that setting up those devices for their new office. So it really made sure a costly thing that was initially with them moving that office, we were able to spread that cost across the term for them, and they're now in that cycle and have added more mobiles on since that deal was initially done.
So why lease with CloudClevr? Well, it goes without saying that we're not just here to talk to you about finance or any individual service. We provide our customers fully managed service for all communications, IT, and connectivity. We work with our customers across multiple solutions to ultimately solve a number of business problems all at once. We're not just here to sell you a laptop or an iPhone or a headset or a Zoom license. We're a strategic partner for our customers and we provide the whole solution, and hence how you pay for the solution is important to ensure you can maximize your investments and efficiencies. If you want to book your free device assessment, simply scan the QR code and we can do a device assessment for you. We can look at your estate of mobiles, laptops, servers, you name it. We can look at that for you and come up with the right way to refresh the estate for you on a payment profile that works for you. And with that, we'll draw it to a close. And thank you for joining us, and thank you, George.
Thank you.